So I want to introduce our next guest from a value proposition perspective. So I want to tell you what you're getting. Our next guest. So have you imagined as a designer, you have a store, but nobody's coming in there. You have fantastic designers, fantastic designs, nobody's buying them. Or as a fashion enthusiast, you're wondering, what is the pathway for me? Our next guest, he has the how and the why. Ladies and gentlemen, join me and welcome David O.
Hello.
Woo! Thank you. How good does he look? Amazing. Amazing. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Wow. So, David, how's it been for you?
Well, I flew all the way from Hong Kong. I'm so happy to be here. I wanted to thank GT Bank and Shigam for inviting me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. Honestly, it's an honor. So, David, I want to get right into it. Please tell me, how did you start off in the industry?
Actually, I started in a very, very strange way. I went to school in New York and I studied graphic design and art direction. And I had my first job in Los Angeles. And in 1984, during the Olympics, Bloomingdale's, the department store, came to Los Angeles. And they saw my work and invited me to work at Bloomingdale's as an art director. So that was in 1984, a long time ago. Most of you weren't born then. But I started my career in retailing in a department store.
Wow. So what was the vision then? So how did you think? Did you think, oh, I could be a publisher one day? What was the pathway for you?
Actually, I moved around in many, many jobs. Every 2-3 years, I changed jobs. And when I was at Bloomingdale's, I was in charge as art director for special projects, which was country promotions. So I did Italy, India, France, and Scandinavia. So
wow.
We had a spring promotion and a fall promotions. So I got introduced in terms of how to market countries, come up with the right product, the right merchandise, working with buyers, doing store design, visual merchandising, product design. So it was a really exciting time to be in Bloomingdale's in the 1980s.
Wow, so that's really inspiring. I want to ask you this question.
Yes.
So you're just one man. You've done sales, you've done marketing, you've done M&A, so much. What is it about you that has set you apart to be chosen over and over and over again to do all these things?
That's a good question because, it's such a competitive business in marketing and advertising and design. You have to really be true to yourself. And I took a lot of time reflecting about what's going to set me apart. So one of the things that was to my advantage was when I was young, I moved around a lot. I lived in San Francisco, in Japan, in Singapore, in Bangkok, Hawaii, and I spoke 3 dialects of Chinese, Mandarin, Cantonese, and Shanghainese, and Japanese. So I was good in languages. I was good with people, with culture. So I decided early on that I would actually be more successful in Asia than in America. So I moved to America.
So why did you decide that?
Because, it was 1995 and the handover was coming in 1997. I said, I want to be in Hong Kong before the handover and experience living in Asia. And actually that was an exciting time to be in Hong Kong because there was a lot of vitality and Claire was there at that time. Claire is with Condé Nast London. So there was a lot of energy, just like we see in here in Nigeria. There's a lot of vitality, energy.
Ooh!
Yes. Yay!
Okay, that's fantastic. So when we were talking, you said you have some keys for success. And,
yes.
We have a lot of young designers, entrepreneurs, all, in the audience. They want to know, what are your keys? What do you recommend?
One of the things that I think is important is to understand everyone is unique. And to be authentic, you have to evaluate what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. I was not a very, very good student going to school. I was just average. But I thought to myself, what am I bad at? So I was bad in math, sciences. I was not a jock. I was not athletic. I was not popular. I was a true nerd. So I said, what was I good at? I was good in the arts. I was good in design, literature, history, and communication. So I said to myself, I want to pursue my strength, which is in art and design.
Okay. Wow, that's really important. I think, even a takeaway is to focus on your strengths and not really your weaknesses and build up from there. Okay, so what's your second key?
I also think, like in real estate, they always say location, location, location. Be at the place that works for you. I lived in New York and I was actually distracted, going to parties all the time and not being able to focus. So being in Hong Kong, you could be the same person, but certain cities have a connection to you and an energy. I really believe that being in the right city for you is important, to meet the right people, have the right connections, and Hong Kong always seemed to be very magical for me. So being at the right location, at the right place at the right time is really important.
Okay, that's very important. Okay, how many keys do we have?
A few more.
Okay, let's go.
All right. And another important thing that I think is important is how do you
We're taking notes.
Yes. How do you market yourself? It's really important to think about yourself, to say what your strengths are, how do you market yourself? So for me, I was good in languages, good in communications, so I decided I would go into advertising. I worked with Ogilvy Mather in Hong Kong, and later on I went to work for Louis Vuitton in Hong Kong for 14 countries for about 6 years, and I did very well that they actually recruited me to go to Paris to work for Celine. So I had to learn French. So I lived in Paris for 5 years, and after Paris, Xenia recruited me to go to Italy and Switzerland, and I was there for 4 years, and I had to learn Italian.
No, all I'm hearing is learn a language, guys.
Learn the language. Learn the language. It's so important to understand the language, understand the culture, embrace the people, and really connect with people.
Okay, thank you very much. I like that point. I'm definitely going to get my French books out and
Très
learn
bien.
something new.
Très bien.
Okay.
Yes. And two other things. There's no shortcuts. Things take time, and don't rush into things. Enjoy the journey, and really everything you do, even though you have failures and you go through hard times, it will really teach you how to be successful and how to grow.
Okay, so before you tell us our next point, I want to just touch on that point where you said failures. Have you had any, failure that almost took you off the path and you were like, I'm done with the industry?
No, I actually took a very philosophical approach. The other night at Segan's home, we went around the table and talked about, what was our most horrible job. And everyone had a story to tell. And for me, I got fired many times in New York and Los Angeles. I'm not afraid to say it, but I had some terrible bosses that screamed and yelled and all that. So it made me a better person, because when I became a boss, I realized how to behave.
Wow. So in that, and isn't that amazing? Like, you look at him and he is perfect. Literally looks so amazing. He's so intelligent, but yet he's failed and he's picked himself up and he's really good. That's amazing. Well done, David.
I think Barack Obama said it's really important to know how you lift yourself from failure and overcome adversity.
Agree.
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so your next point.
The last one is very important, is that you got to show up. If you have an appointment or an interview, please show up. And I'm so nervous about being on time. And one of my mentors said that you're either on time or you're late. So you never start off by being late. So I would always go to appointments a day before so that I know how long it would take to get there.
How does that? Okay, so you.
So
would
if I had
know
an
the
appointment
road
today, yesterday, I would have come here to know that I would be here early and on time. Because the worst thing is to be late, right? So show up on time, look the part, and do the talk.
Wow, thank you so much, David. I
welcome.
really appreciate that point.
Okay.
Okay, so we were discussing something and we're saying, just similar to a point of show up on time, we were saying, the generation today, my generation,
Yes.
What tips do you have for us? Because, I look at you and I'm thinking, if I were in the fashion business, could I, in another 20 years be, the Vogue editor-in-chief? Could I do that? What do I need to do? What is different in my generation that you see and you really think, we need to brush up on to actually get there?
Well, I think talent is very important. You have to train your eye and understand that talent of art direction, of editorial, about business, about design, about styling. You know, the magazine business is a very, very complicated business. And when we actually started Vogue, I'll go into it later, we had to know what is the Vogue DNA. You know, what is a Vogue photograph? What is a Vogue cover blurb? What is Vogue text? It's very different from, let's say, Harper's Bazaar or Cosmo or another magazine. So we have to learn the trade. And one of the things we mentioned earlier that I would like to encourage all young people to understand is that, you know, we meet so many people in this world. A lot of them we want to impress. So when you meet them, you know, you talk to them, learn about them, listen, and take notes. And so after you meet them, it's important that people remember you.
Yes.
So write them a note. Like, for example, if we met, and I know that you have a fiance, right? So I will write her a note and say, for your wedding, wouldn't this wedding dress look good, right? So you'll be saying, oh my God, he remembered. I have a fiance and I'm probably going to get married, right?
Thank you, David. That is so nice. Such an important point. So far, recap, learn a good language, show up on time, and connect with people.
Yes.
And we were talking so much, and you were saying Vogue DNA now. So I think we should get into strategy. You've worked with so many brands. You've done M&A, you've done marketing, Toys R Us, Celine, the list goes on. Let's get into your presentation. So he's come specifically with a presentation to share with us his wealth of knowledge, and he's talking about how the consumer reacts and how they basically, your marketing influences their purchases. So we'll get right into your presentation. Can we have the presentation up, please?
Okay, I wanted to tell you I can't be all things to everyone. So I'm supposedly an expert on China, the consumer, fashion, and retail, and also now most recently in publishing. So what I'm going to take a point of view of a case study, which is about China and the Chinese millennials and how we can influence their purchase behavior. So I think I have to get up to look at my slides. Okay, this is my title slide. We'll go to the next page. So these are all the things I will talk to you about, is the background of the Chinese consumer, focus on the Chinese millennial, what does millennials like to do, how do they like to shop, what key opinion leaders are, social media, the one-child policy, the purchasing power and what they like to buy, what makes them like a brand or product, how do they know the brands, and what makes them make the final purchase decision. And lastly, I'll talk about my most recent life, which is with Vogue, Hong Kong.
Yes. So please take some notes. This is the how and the why that I spoke about.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, next slide. All right, this is something that is very important. Whenever you enter a market, you have to understand the basics of a country.
Yes.
So China has 1.4 billion people. There are 56 ethnic groups, 22 provinces, all these different things about cities. And what's interesting is there's 800 million internet users in China. And these internet users use social media about 4.7 hours a day.
Wow.
And look at the age category. Between 25 to 54, there's about 50% of the population is that category, all right? So let's go to the next slide, is that I just wanted to compare Nigeria with China.
Yes.
So Nigeria has about 200 million people, but China has 1.4. But when you look at the big cities, like Shanghai has 24 million, Beijing 21, Shenzhen 12, Guangzhou 14. But if you follow the money, when you look at Shenzhen, their average per capita income is 52,000, which is incredible. So, you know, that's partly because Shenzhen is the internet capital. It's the Silicon Valley of China. So a lot of people there are spending a lot of money because they make a lot of money, because Tencent is there, WeChat is there, all right? We'll go to the next slide. Okay, we'll go and focus, next slide. There's 415 million internet users, or actually consumers that are millennials.
David, just 1 second. I just want to ask, how many of us even know how many entrepreneurs know how many users of internet we have in Nigeria? So that's something to start to think about. You know, as an entrepreneur, when you're working on how to chart who your consumer is, think about this as he's presenting, relate it to your own, to Nigeria basically, and think of how does this relate to me? Have I done any kind of research? How do I know who's buying my product? Please go on, David.
Yes. So that's about 31% of the Chinese population are internet users and millennials, and 92 of them use internet. 75% are online shoppers, and there 8 times are mostly college graduates, right? And 2 times a year they're likely to travel abroad. And there's 14% consumption growth per year. So these are really important statistics. So know your customer, know how they like to shop, whether it's online or offline.
Get the data.
Okay, get the data. Next slide. Now, in China, we've broken down the categories into 4 different baskets: Generation X, Generation Y, white collars, silver hair. So I'm going to focus on millennials. So we'll go to the next slide. So between Generation X and Y, what do we know is that, number one, the lifestyle upgrade. Most of these millennials like to upgrade their lifestyle, right?
Yes, we do.
Second, they like to demand unique products. Third, they like to experience things. So rather than shop, they like the whole shop experience. They also use a smartphone, mobile. And there's a craze for social media. So these are the 4 or 5 key things about the millennials.
Okay.
All right? Next slide. There's differences in terms of offline and online. Offline is physical stores. One of the key things is that they can touch and feel the products. Second, they can actually purchase on the spot, and they can pick up the products immediately, right? So that's in stores. Offline, it's time-saving, especially people in China. They work a lot. So sometimes it takes an hour to go to a shopping mall. So when they buy online, they actually, if you buy by 10 o'clock, it's delivered by 6 o'clock, midnight. So it's 24 hours.
Oh, yeah. 24 hours.
Yes.
Wow.
All right, we'll go to the next slide. What do they like to do? Next slide. Okay, they like to do e-shopping, social media, 1 or 2 hours a day. They like to dine out with friends 2 to 3 times a week. They do about 5.8 trips a year, spending about $364 a day. That's a lot of money when they travel. And they do 1 or 2 trips overseas a year. Next slide. They go to the gym. They like fitness 3 to 4 times a week. They do mobile gaming. They like punch time, which is downtime, 10 times more a week. And they do social networking. So it's important to understand your customer base.
Definitely.
Yes. Punch time is that when they actually go out with their friends and they go pal around time. Okay, next.
Think, something I wanted to just, point the audience's attention to is, especially with, a lot of people with online stores do Facebook ads, sponsored ads.
Yes.
You need to know this data to know how to push those ads. So you need to know whether they are going to be at the gym. You need to know if your customer plays games a lot, so you need to know who to partner with to push your ads, because really and truly, this is where success is. It's not just, pretty clothes, it's the data. Please go on.
So lifestyle choices is really important to understand the lifestyle of the consumer. All right, next slide. Okay, what do they purchase? Okay, next slide. Okay, shopping channels. We always talk about shopping channels in terms of how they like to shop. So the biggest channel is shopping malls and shopping centers. Second is online flagship stores. Then department stores, apparel brands, discount websites, hypermarkets, non-flagship stores, outlets. Daigou is very interesting, is because Daigou is shopping agents. Because in China, the price of products is about 30% more than in France and America. So people will go to France or America and buy things and charge people 10, 15% a fee. Right.
We do that here too.
You do that here too?
People
okay.
import
And
sell,
small independent stores, on-street marketplace, maternal and child stores, and others. So it's important to understand the different channels you have in your markets. All right, next slide. This is very interesting because there's a lot of online players, but about 75% is dominated by Alibaba and JD.com. These are the two most important players in China. So if you want to do online, you have to be on their platforms. All right, next slide. Cross-border. This is interesting because in Hong Kong, it's the cross-border market. A lot of times people buy things in Hong Kong because they have less testing, because in cosmetic industry, that in China, all products have to have animal testing. So if you have products in Hong Kong, they're not animal tested, but they're called cross-border products. So what they like to buy...
Is that legal?
It's legal, yes. So they like to buy food because of safety, food safety. They like to buy 3D digital products, apparel, and also cosmetic and beauty. These are the top things that they like to buy cross-border, all right?
Okay.
Next slide. KOLs, is key opinion leaders. It's very important.
Key opinion leaders.
Yes.
Okay.
And next slide is that this is an interesting about the platforms in China. Look at this. Over 1 billion people use WeChat in China. It's huge.
Yeah.
About 800 million use QQ. These are the two most important platforms that they do social media on. So if you want
WeChat is like, sorry, WeChat is like WhatsApp,
yes,
but
exactly,
a bit more
WhatsApp.
advanced. It has a bit more features on there. You can pay for stuff and things like that. It's kind of their primary app for instant communication.
Yeah, so you can shop, you can text, and you can communicate on WeChat. So it's a very important vehicle for people to communicate. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Is that these
Sorry,
are...
David, I'm wondering, do we understand what he meant by KOLs? Yeah? Okay.
Yes. I can't hear you. Yes, influencers, exactly. So people that KOLs are people that have an account on WeChat or QQ, and what they do is they're influencers. So for example, this lady, Yang Mi, she's one of the top 10 celebrities. She's a famous Chinese actress. She's a singer, movie star, but she has 104 followers. Right? That's huge, 104. Now here, there's Zhang Eve. She's the top 10 famous model, celebrity, online store owner. She has 11 million followers. Feng Timo is a live streamer on Douyu. She's a singer, gamer, and she transitions to online through TV shows and personal concerts. She has 9 million followers. So these people get paid. For example, if I'm Louis Vuitton, I will actually pay this person to write a review on a product. And when she posts it, then people will actually be influenced to buy.
We do that a lot here too.
Yes.
We use a lot of influencers. People
So
use
John?
influencers. Yeah.
Hey, David, I have a question. So, like, this is really good intel, but I'm wondering, so if you have Instagram here, or if you have, like, you know, for example, everyone in this market, they don't necessarily have that platform. How do you engage that audience if you don't necessarily have the same app? If, just say if they're a retailer here and they want to tap into that marketplace, is there a way to make that happen across the pond or across the trends? You know,
Okay, let's say you're asking if you're a Nigerian makeup artist or have a makeup line or fashion designer, how do you get onto this platform to get these key opinion leaders? What you do is you...
or to tap into that app at all, you know?
Okay, what you can do is, for example, on WeChat, you can have a WeChat account, all right? So, but you can start, let's say, a search on WeChat account, but you're not going to get the traffic, because apparently people don't know you that well because you don't have stores. But what you can do is you can work with key opinion leaders to send you traffic into your site. So
That
that's
makes
it.
sense. Absolutely. Thank
Right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Please go on.
next slide. So this is kind of technical, but there's KOT, which is key opinion consumers. So this is what people do traditionally. There's one person that talks to an audience, all right? So that's KOT, where it's an authoritative channel, which is reliable, right?
Okay.
Then there's the second step, which is social marketing, where you're one person and you talk to people in a social media environment, right?
Okay.
With opinion
That's
leaders
the-
and
yeah.
truth believers.
Yeah.
And there's another one, it's KOC, which is their friends, someone you know, that they
Okay.
actually influence you by sending information as friends.
Okay.
So these are the three different approaches.
So which
of
one would you say is the most effective?
This one here. Because if you get a notice from someone you know, rather than a stranger, you'll be more willing to try a product because this is someone you know. If your friend tells you, you got to use this product, I love it, you'll trust them more because your friend will not betray you, right? Theoretically.
But David, why do we then spend so much money on KOLs?
Because it's a fast way of actually getting, endorsements. Because what happens is the key opinion leaders often are celebrities, singers, famous people, and they look like you, beautiful, young, smart, intelligent, always looking beautiful. So if you said on your platform and said, I use this special lip gloss, aren't my lips beautiful? People will go and try it. So you can make a lot of money.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Next slide. Okay, one thing that's very interesting is that next slide, is that up to recently, China only had a one-child policy, which really affected the business model because you can imagine there's one child would have 6 adults catering to them. So although their salary is not high, they have both parents and then both sets of grandparents all giving them money so they have a lot of purchasing power.
Sounds nice.
Until recently, they've allowed 2-child. So in 2015, you can have 2 children rather than 1. So that really has made it a big business. So they will create a $15 billion market, and the rise of momnomics goes beyond maternal and child products. Food and dairy, health care, garments, automotive, and education. Education is very good because in China, people will sacrifice everything for their child to have the best education and the best experience, and by traveling at least 1 or 2 times a year. All right? So what are the convenience is the top concern for mothers with their 2 children. The recycling of consumer goods is very important. And the second child born in less urbanized areas. So that means that in the urban cities, 2-child is more popular. When you're in less urbanized cities, it's still one child.
But so I want to understand clearly, how does this help the economy?
This helps because when you have 2 children, people buy a lot more. You can imagine if you have 1 child, you spend less. When you have 2 children, there's more spend onto the home, children's things, education, travel. It just opens a whole new market for children.
Okay. Are we all following? All right, thank you.
Okay, next slide. What brands do they like to buy? All right, let's go to the next slide. These are some brands, and we broke down in China what are the different categories that the Chinese consumer like to buy. So they like casual. So under casual, they like IT, Uniqlo, Zara, Hollister. This is a very important category, casual wear.
It's also very American, those
Yes, very
brands.
American. It's true. Casual wear is very strong because American fashion is casual wear. Tennis shoes, jeans. So that's the DNA, which is very American. Simplistic. Okay, this is also very American. It's like Gap.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Then the next slide, sporty. Sporty is very big in China. Adidas, Nike, Converse, New Balance. Sporty is a very big category. Korean fashion, K-pop, K-dramas is very popular in Hong Kong and China. So Korean fashions is a very, very big thing for the last 15 years. Next slide.
So do you have more people buying the Korean brands
Yes, in
than
fact,
the American ones?
Actually, because of the tight visa restrictions in America, a lot of Chinese are traveling to number 1, Japan, number 2, Korea, number 3, Thailand, because there's no visa restrictions, and it's much closer. So they connect because they think that Korean and Japanese brands fit them better because the sizing is better. So that's important. And another category is smart casual. It's like Xenia, XG, which is a Chinese brand, Zara, and K-boxing. So it's kind of casual hip clothing, right?
Okay, one more question. What's the pricing like? Is it more expensive or less expensive than your American brands?
Actually, the most expensive brands in China are European brands, French, Italian, English. And then American brands are more casual, so they're more moderately priced, entry price points. And then Korean and Japanese brand are more bridge. Of course, you have Japanese designers like Comme des Garçons and Rei Cobra, which is a little bit more expensive. But on the average, Japanese brands are more bridge category.
Okay.
All right. Next slide. So outside of non-apparel brands, these are platforms that are very important. Ctrip is China's biggest travel agency. online travel agency. You know Coca-Cola, IKEA, you know, Samsung, you know. So what are the 5 common attributes among the top 10 most favorite non-apparel brands? Reputation is very important. The brand trustworthiness, the brand offer, the value for money, and the brand is a professional brand, that it's really respected.
Okay, David, I want to bring this slide home a bit. So how does this affect our economy directly? So say I'm a fashion entrepreneur, what does this mean to me?
It means that, you know, it's important for any brand in China is to start, is to have online to offline, because physical stores, China is such a big country that if you want to enter the China market, you should be online, because people search online to understand what they like. So they search online and they buy in store or online. So it's really important to have a digital front for a brand. Okay? Next. Okay, what are the top brands that they like? All right, we'll go to the next slide. They like Uniqlo. It's very important. Everyone knows Uniqlo. It's good value, good price, good fit. Japanese brand, very technical. All right. Next slide. They like H&M because of the price points. It's for everyone. It's good fit, good quality. Next one. This is a Chinese brand, and they do very casual clothing, and product quality is good, beautiful design. It has a good reputation, and it's very simple.
Okay.
Right? Next one. Zara.
Yeah, we know Zara.
You know Zara, right? I hear you don't have Zara here, right?
No, we don't. No, not yet.
Yeah, but I saw some people yesterday wearing Zara, and they loved it. All right.
Yeah, we love Zara. Zara's amazing.
Next slide. They like Gap.
Yeah, Gap
All right.
is good.
It's an American brand. All right. And next slide. And how do they know the brands? All right. That's very important and very challenging. Let's go to the next slide. What's important is that China has a selling days. So Alibaba came up with a very, very smart selling day called 11/11. It's called Singles Day, 1111. So most single people will shop on this day. It's what we call a cyber shopping day, and they do huge amount of business. And I think they do about 30 billion US dollars in one day. And
on
the
one
premise,
platform.
yeah, and what they do is they target young singles people, and most of the product is on sale. So 1 month before, they do the heat up, and then the day, actually at the midnight, they start selling. In the first 5 minutes, they do over $5 billion of business.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who are you targeting, guys? Think
Right?
about it.
Okay, next slide. Okay, how do they make this purchase decision? Next slide. I'll go very quickly. What is the main reasons? Is that higher product and quality and service. Next slide. Is that what are the shopping influences? Branding, online feedback, product quality. Next slide. Key benefits of online shopping is convenience. Everyone loves the convenience of online shopping, right? It's same here. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is important. What is the e-commerce concerns? Number one is product authenticity. There's a lot of fakes online. Product quality. Online, offline visual discrepancies.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when you see something online, it doesn't look like the real product. So they really worry about that, right?
Very true.
And then cumbersome return policies, because in China, sometimes they say 2 weeks return, and then if you miss the 2 weeks, they don't accept your returns.
Yeah.
Price discrepancies. Sometimes the price online to offline is different. So that's something that and delivery issues. Sometimes they don't deliver on time, which is very frustrating.
I feel like we should take a picture of this slide. So important.
Yeah.
So important.
Next slide. Okay,
You guys want to take a picture? So can we go back a little bit?
Go back.
Yeah. Quickly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next slide is the most common post-purchase activity. It's posting comments on the store, right? Share product feedback, share product online on forums, and share product feedback with friends directly. So a lot of people, after they buy something, they like to post because it's a kind of a social media activity, because most people in China, it has a one-child policy. So they want to connect with their friends and say, look at this wonderful suit I bought. Isn't it great? So they want approval, which is very important in China. Next slide. Is that what are the reasons for buying in the past 3 months? to add some new items, purchase for new season, and new replacement, right? So these are the 3 top reasons why they buy in the last 3 months. Okay, next slide. Okay, considerations, factors for buying. 3 top things is good quality, the style fits me, is
Value
good-looking
for
design.
money.
So that's pretty much the same everywhere. Next slide. Okay.
All right,
I'm going
so
to talk
Vogue.
about Vogue now. And Claire is here with Condé Nast, so I have to be very careful. She asked me to talk a little bit about the business model for Vogue. And what I was very, very nervous going to London to talk to Condé Nast to get Vogue. And there's many different models. And there's 3 basic models in publishing. One is direct. So let's say the principal, which is Vogue, Condé Nast UK, they will directly operate a magazine in a local market. So that means that they will hire their staff and they're directly operated by the principal. Another model is a licensing model. Is that you have a local operator that has a licensee to handle Vogue. And another one is an agency model where you have a local operator and they work as an agent.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So let me go to the next slide.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Wow, look at that.
This is the first cover that we just did in March. Yes.
Can I ask a question? Just to recap the last, because you gave a lot of content that was like invaluable information, but just to bring it home a little bit, so just say if a lot of people are like small designers or small brands and they want to get into this marketplace and tap into this huge massive audience, do you think, so what you're saying is the best way for them to do that is social, online presence, like
Yes.
in terms of recapping it for as a take home? So it
Okay.
would be what?
I would suggest if you are a Nigerian designer and you want to enter the Chinese market, I think because China is such a big country, there's over 100 cities in China, over 1 million people. So I would go on a digital platform like Alibaba or JD.com and have a digital presence, online presence. And by that, I would actually have people talk about the brand, get some key opinion leaders to talk about your product and brand, and I would also go into some multi-mark stores. So to have a physical presence and an online presence. So people go onto online to search, to understand the brand, to do the research, and then they want to actually see the physical product, to see the sizing, to see the fabric, to see if they like the product. So you need to have some physical stores too. Or you can do a pop-up store.
Okay, we'll take the remaining questions after his presentation, just because we're running out of time.
Okay, where are we? Oh, 21.
Yes.
All right, so this is the cover, the first cover that we did for Vogue, and it was launched in March this year. And we decided we wanted to use a very famous Chinese model called Fei Fei Sun, but we did 3 covers for the initial issue. So next cover, next slide. Oops. Oh, anyway, so I'll get to that later. So before it is in fashion, it is in Vogue. This is our press kit that we did for Vogue. So before we actually launched the magazine, we said, what should Vogue be? Vogue should be bold, influential, visionary, and inspiring. This is the DNA of Vogue Hong Kong. Next slide. Vogue is the #1 fashion magazine in the world, right? So we always want to say that we have to be #1, right?
So intentional also.
Yes. The next slide is Vogue is much more than fashion. It's about culture of fashion. It's about the culture of art. It's the culture of living. So it's important to know that Vogue, it's just not a fashion magazine. It's about the culture of Vogue, about fashion. So we really want to be more than just fashion. Next slide. This is important because what we do is that this is the audience ecosystem. So we have social media.
Yeah.
We have key opinion leaders.
Okay.
We have the mobile traffic. And this is
Okay.
desktop publishing. We have events. We have videos. So this is the digital side, outside of print. Okay?
Okay. So I think, for the audience is also to create your own ecosystem and to really define what that is. What is your DNA? What is your ecosystem?
It's important.
go on.
Okay, next slide. Is that since its launch in March 2019, Vogue has been focusing on 2 key areas of gender equality and female empowerment. We thought this is
That's
important
amazing.
because Vogue is a women's magazine, and just for your information, it's in Chinese. So this is in English, but then our audience is in Chinese, so it's written in Chinese. But we thought we need to own something. So we
Yes.
wanted to own gender equality, and female empowerment.
Don't they deserve a round of applause for that? Thank you. Thank you.
So this is what we did for gender equality and female empowerment. The next slide is that we did, along with the French French Chamber, in support of UN initiative, He for She in the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, attended by 600 executives and professionals. The second thing we did was, in celebration of International Women's Day, Vogue Hong Kong moderated a panel discussion on gender equality alongside with the Women's Foundation, attended by 400 people.
Wow, that's huge. That's
And
huge.
we did some more too. So there's another one slide.
I think it's important to ask yourself, who are you collaborating with?
Yes.
And what change are you bringing to the society that you're in?
So this is a way to network to our key audience. So the third thing we did was actually Vogue partnered with Women's of Hope Award to host a fundraising luncheon to provide underprivileged cancer patients with free cancer screening to further
Come
the
on,
work
guys.
of Reach of
Please.
Cancer Fund. We raised over about $6 million. The fourth thing we did is also we supported the development of female contemporary artists, and Vogue launched the Vogue Hong Kong Women's Art Prize in collaboration with the 2019 Sovereign Asian Art Prize. So we gave a prize to a Chinese artist to promote art for women. All right?
Well
so these are
done.
the 4 initiatives we did. So as I mentioned earlier, this was the cover with Fei Fei Sun, but we had 3 covers. And the next slide, we did a second cover with
that's
Bella
beautiful.
Hadid and Fei Fei Sun, and our headline was, "We landed in Hong Kong." It was done by Nick Knight. All right?
Wow.
That was our March cover. The next cover, we did a very famous model called KK and the
Okay.
daughter. It was called Love is Timeless. So we wanted to show what is timeless in love is really the love that you have with your mother and your daughter. So this, we tried a different pace, black and white, a model and her daughter. Next slide. In May cover, we did the very shocking Western model shot in New
Okay.
York. It was called The Power of Next. What's happening next in fashion?
Okay.
Next slide. September cover. Great, Rihanna. A lot of times people ask us with Vogue Hong Kong, how much is local content and how much is international?
Yeah.
You would think this is international, that it was shot in America, London, Italy. But actually, we commissioned this and we shot this in New York. So
Wow.
it's important. We do about 70% local, 30% international. All right?
Okay,
Next
very
slide.
good.
This is actually a very famous Hong Kong actress called Karina Lau, and
She's
the title is
beautiful.
A Vision of 14,000 Frames, talking about her career in cinema.
Okay.
So, next slide. Is that it? Okay.
You done?
So that's it. So actually, we have
Thank you.
about 15 minutes,
Thank you,
and I
David.
thought we would take this time to open up to some Q&A, right?
Yes. I know you're burning with so many questions. That was an amazing session, an amazing presentation. Thank you so much,
Oh,
David.
Thank you for being
Okay.
so patient. Let's open it up to some questions.
Yes.
Yes.
So I have a hand over there. Can we get him the mic, please? Guys, blow us away with these questions.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. My question is this. For an upcoming fashion designer who want to take over the international space, I want you to relate the fashion designing and branding, because we that are just starting, when you give a client, like a customer, a price you want to make an outfit, most of the time they only want to play it down like this is what they want to pay you. How do you grow from this level to the level whereby you can charge good amount of money because you know the content, exactly what you want to give? How do you magnify your brand to come from just where it is to the international level?
Okay, that's very important. Pricing is very important. How many people are fashion designers here? Put up your hands. Wow, a lot.
Wow.
Okay, it's very important. So what I find is important is to understand the matrix of your brand. Know who your competition is, all right? So normally we do a grid where we go from high, expensive, low, formal, casual. You do a grid of where you are, and you map out all your competition, right? And once you know your competition, you benchmark your competition. How much are they selling, right, in different channels? Online price, offline price, all right? Then what you do is international brands, local brands. Then what you go do is your manufacturing cost, all right? And on top of your manufacturing cost, you have to add in your costs for marketing, operations, production, all that stuff. And what you do is you have to have a good margin. So I would say usually the margins from cost to retail is anywhere from 3 to 10, right? So depends on where you manufacture. Sometimes you can manufacture in China, but you know, once it goes up to 20, you're actually, it's way too high. So anywhere between 3 to 10 is a good margin.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I have a hand over there. Can we get a mic to her, please?
Hello, David.
Hello.
My name is Kemi. Such a honor to be in the same room with you. Thank you, GT, for this opportunity. So my first question is, from your masterclass, I've seen that data is such a powerful tool. So as an upcoming online person, how do you curate data? How do you curate data to get data?
Actually, we don't really curate data.
Okay.
We analyze data.
Okay, how do you, thank you, how do you analyze your data?
Okay, first of all, there's a lot of data that you need to understand your brand. Number one is your product positioning, all right? Where in terms of your brand you want to be positioned, right? Is it going to be casual wear? Is it evening wear? Is it formal wear? So you have to know what is your product positioning, all right? So as long you have, number one, I would say understand your product positioning.
Yeah.
Number two, understand your competition, know their pricing, and also their audience, online, offline. And then you have to do some research on pricing, how much they sell full price, how much they sell on sale, how much they sell on outlet, right? So then you also have to analyze how many days you will be sold on full price. Now, a lot of you probably might have your own store.
Yeah.
So if you have your own store, you control the sell period and the markdown. But if you sell in a, let's say, department store or let's say a multi-mark store, they will start marking down. So if you start fall, winter in September, probably in 3 months' time, October, November, they start going on sale, marked down 10% for VIPs, 20%, 30%, 50%, and then probably during Christmas, New Year, they go down no more than 50 to 70%, then it goes to outlet, right? Once it goes to outlet, it goes on sale for 70%, then to about maximum 90%. After that, it goes to a jobber after 1 year. So you have to clear your inventory. So it's very important when people come to your showroom to buy your collection is to buy correctly. Because if you sell to a client too much merchandise and it's marked down on sale, next season they're not going to buy from you because they said that you didn't perform well.
Okay, so research. All right, let's move to the other side of the room, please. We have time for maybe 3 questions at most. Can I get the mic over here, please?
Wow, there's so many questions. If I don't get to all of you, come to me afterwards, and I'll answer your questions, all right? So don't be afraid.
He's very approachable, such a nice man.
Thank you, David. Thank you, GTB. It's been really enlightening. My name is Esther Waji. I'm an entrepreneur in Port Harcourt. And what's your one piece of advice if someone was to start a fashion magazine? What's the one thing you advise them to do? And also, what should your team be made up of?
Actually, that's very important. With a fashion magazine, I think it's important to know what kind of magazine you want to be, all right? And you said fashion, so let's say fashion. Under fashion, is it going to be a young fashion magazine, a kind of mature, know your market, your audience, and then most importantly is that you have to have your editorial point of view, all right? So you have to create an editorial team, and that means getting your editor-in-chief, your fashion director, your writers, your talent, which is photographers,
Yeah.
stylists, your cover models, your stories. You have to create an editorial dummy, and then you have to get it to your advertising department and business people to go and sell it. Because if you don't have advertising, you can't support the magazine. So for example, when we did the first issue of Vogue in March, we did 300 pages of magazine, but 150 were advertising. So it's really important to have good advertisers to support your magazine. Right, Claire? Okay, good.
All right, thank you, David. Okay, let's go to the back, please. Oh, there's a young man standing. Please just give it to him.
Sorry, we'll get to you.
We will, we will.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Yes.
Thank you, GTB Bank. My question is, how do you handle or manage customers that like to hold too much? You know, all these customers that like to hold credit. How
Like-
do you,
So customers who take the clothes but don't pay for it.
Oh,
you know, you saw customers' clothes. They tell you, okay, take this one. I'm coming home. And at the end of the day, you don't get to see them. You start calling them on the phone. They don't answer your call. They ignore your calls. How do you handle that? Because I'm trying to relate to that guy over there who talked about going to the next level. Because when you hold credit, how do you go to the next level?
So she's saying a lot of customers will
okay.
come in and
I
take
know that
credits,
it's
yeah.
very interesting that you say that, because I worked in LVMH, at Vuitton, at Celine, and I tell you, there's only 3 reasons you should actually lend or give clothes away from as a designer. Number 1 is for editorial. If a magazine wants to shoot it, you gotta lend it to them because they're going to give you editorial, or key opinion leaders. But oftentimes when it goes to a magazine or to key opinion leader, not Vogue, but sometimes the editor will say, I love it so much, can I keep it? So you have to understand, is that editor or fashion director or stylist, how important are they to you? So normally we have a budget in terms of PR budget that we give away or lend clothes to celebrities, or let's say editorial or key opinion leaders. So those are the only 3 people that you should actually give a discount or give away. But most customers, you should not be giving it away, because once you give it
Yeah.
away, then they take advantage of you, and every season they want more and more and more.
Definitely.
So customers, you can actually give them a discount, but never give away your clothes, because you
Never,
work so
never,
hard on
never.
your designer. You should never give it away. But what you can do is sometimes if you're an owner and you say, I have a friends and family discount, which is 10%, I will give you my discount
Yeah.
one time a year, 20 or 30% maximum. But that's
That's
the
the
rule.
max.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I know this is going to break your hearts, but this is all we have time for right now. We have to round up right now. He will be on the ground.
I will
Please
be
ask
out there.
him
If anyone wants
any
to ask me questions, I'll
David,
be out there.
I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
This
Thank
has
you.
been amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.